Our next speaker, Elaine Kaplan, is Acting Director of the United States Office of Personnel Management. She's the highest-ranking out lesbian in President Obama's administration, and she was just recently confirmed by the Senate to be judge of the U.S. Court of Federal Claims. Please join me in welcoming Elaine to the stage.
Thank you very much. Wow, this is pretty intimidating. I've never spoken after confetti, a burst of confetti, or a musical performer. But thank you very much for the kind introduction, and let me also thank the wonderful leader of Out and Equal, your founder and executive director, Celeste Berry. Thank you very much for inviting me. So I bring you greetings from the battlefield, the land of dysfunction, Panic on the Potomac, also known as our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Shout out to Washington, D.C. It's so nice to not be there. And it is very much, it's my pleasure to be with you this afternoon. Out and Equal's work has been so important to LGBT workers everywhere, and especially to us at the U.S. Office of Personnel Management as we work to recruit, retain, and honor a world-class workforce for the American people. So it's really a treat for me to speak to an audience that's so focused on equality in the workplace, which is something I've devoted a lot of my career to. Now, from my many years in the federal government and around the federal government, first as a new lawyer in the Department of Labor, next as the Deputy General Counsel of a federal employee union, then as the head of the Office of Special Counsel, and now as Acting Director of OPM, I can tell you that I know that the American people benefit from having a truly diverse federal workforce. Every single community across America has talented people who can and do contribute to the vibrancy of our country. And to ensure that our federal workforce has the best and the brightest serving our nation, we have to recruit from every single community, otherwise we're leaving talent behind. I can also tell you with great conviction that President Obama values every American, and his administration has made historic strides to expand opportunity, advance equality, honor differences, and last but not least, level the playing field for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people, their families, and their communities. Now, he has. Now, our former OPM director, my good friend and colleague, and now ambassador to Australia, John Berry, had the privilege of speaking at your 2009 Workplace Summit in Orlando, and he's a very dynamic speaker. And at the time, you know, I think he said a lot of stuff that some people thought was kind of crazy. For one thing, he said that under this president, this is 2009, we would end the shameful practice that is don't ask, or that was don't ask, don't tell. He also, wait, don't step on my line. He also told the conference that we'd see the successful overturn of the Defense of Marriage Act. I'm supposed to call it the so-called Defense of Marriage Act. And he said that under this president, we would extend family benefits to the same-sex spouses of federal workers. Now, if you listen to the talking heads, the bloggers, and the thought leaders in 2009, they didn't think that was possible. Some even doubted whether the commitment was there to see all of these difficult battles through. But you know what? John was right. Under President Obama, we have seen the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. We saw the invalidation of the so-called Defense of Marriage Act by the Supreme Court, and we have extended family benefits to the same-sex partners of federal employees, and we've done a whole lot more than that. And so I'm going to give you just a little bit of an update. Shortly after John spoke to you in 2009, President Obama signed the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act into law, which extends the coverage of federal hate crimes law to include attacks based on a victim's actual or perceived sexual orientation or gender identity. Thanks to this president, we have now extended hospital visitation rights for LGBT patients and their loved ones. Seems like it shouldn't be a major accomplishment to get that done. But following a directive from President Obama, the Department of Health and Human Services now requires all hospitals receiving Medicare or Medicaid funds, which is pretty much every hospital in America almost, to allow visitation rights for the partners, friends, spouses, and family members of LGBT patients. In addition, the President directed HHS to ensure that the medical decision-making rights of LGBT patients are respected. And thanks to the Affordable Care Act, we can be assured that insurance companies will no longer be allowed to discriminate against anyone due to pre-existing conditions. And because of the Affordable Care Act, insurers can no longer turn someone away just because he or she is lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender. And that's the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act also provides funding to address a variety of healthcare issues and disparities, including tobacco control, obesity prevention, HIV, nutrition, physical activity. Through increased research and data collection on these issues, policymakers are going to have the knowledge and tools they need to continue to address the health needs of concerns of every community, including the LGBT community. Akin to your own work at Out and Equal, funding is going toward building a more diverse and culturally competent healthcare workforce. This is good stuff, but there's more. Since 2009, the President has taken steps to ensure LGBT equality in housing. For example, in 2012, the administration issued a final rule declaring that all of the Department of Housing and Urban Development's core housing programs are open to everyone, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. In addition, the Justice Department issued guidance stating that federal prosecutors should enforce criminal provisions in the Violence Against Women Act in cases involving same-sex relationships. And the President signed a reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act that contains important new protections for the LGBT community. The Department of Education has issued important guidance to school districts, informing them of their obligation to address bullying against LGBT students. And nearly every federal agency has been involved in efforts to address and prevent bullying against LGBT young people. I also want to note the tremendous work that's been done by President Obama, Secretaries of State Clinton and Kerry, Ambassadors Rice and Power, and the USAID Acting Administrator Shah in advancing LGBT rights around the world. And this is something that Celise made reference to, but not many people are aware of the work that has gone into implementing this foreign policy, but it is, of course, incredibly important. President Obama has directed our federal agencies engaged abroad to assure that U.S. diplomacy and foreign assistance promote and protect the human rights of LGBT people. And that is something that will impact LGBT people far beyond our shores. In addition, the President, in consultation with the Attorney General, directed the Department of Justice to stop defending the constitutionality of Section 3 of the Defense of Marriage Act. And his Solicitor General, on behalf of the United States, urged the court to strike that law down. And guess what? They did. I have to tell you that that was probably the day that the decision was made to stop defending the law, and the day that the Solicitor General argued against the constitutionality of the Defense of Marriage Act were amongst my sort of happiest and most gratifying during my time in the Obama administration. After the court issued the historic ruling, we have acted to implement the decision to ensure that married same-sex couples have access to the federal rights and benefits that they've waited so long to have and that they deserve. And on a point of personal privilege and pride, I want to tell you that the Office of Personnel Management was the first agency to announce its first implementation plan 2 days after the Windsor decision was announced. And shout out to my acting general counsel who made that happen, Sharon McGowan. So a lot has happened over the last 4 years. It's really kind of been exhausting. And actually, this is kind of an interesting time for me to be speaking as the acting director of the Office of Personnel Management, because it may be that by the time that I get off the stage here, the permanent director of the Office of Personnel Management will have been confirmed, because they're voting on her right now. So if you'll still listen to me, even if they confirm her while we're talking, I have a few more things to say. So, the Supreme Court's Windsor decision, I think, demonstrated that now is not the time to rest. In fact, I think I've gotten less rest since the DOMA decision than before it, and I wasn't getting much then. It turns out that cleaning up years of discriminatory regulations and rules is hard and complicated work, but we're up to the task, and we have a lot of very committed people within the executive branch, both political appointees and career employees of the federal government. So your federal agencies right now are acting to clarify access for same-sex married couples, the things most Americans take for granted: passports, family and medical leave, health care benefits, visas, tax filing, even joining the Peace Corps and being able to serve with your spouse. All of these things. This must be the international contingency over here. All of these, are you from the Peace Corps? Whatever. Yay. All of these things have multiple roles that have to be sorted through and figured out. Now, the good news, again, is that we've got a great team at the Department of Justice who is actively working to implement these changes under the terrific leadership of our Attorney General, Eric Holder. And I am proud, very proud, I would say, that our own agency, OPM, has played a significant role in ensuring the equal treatment of federal LGBT employees in a post-Windsor world. And speaking of waiting far too long for equality, I also want to take a moment to reiterate the President's strong support for the passage of the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, or ENDA, which we hope the Senate will take up soon. The President has long supported a fully inclusive ENDA because in this day and age, it is both unconscionable and un-American that there are no explicit federal protections against employment discrimination on the basis of both sexual orientation and gender identity. Now, not only is this wrong, it's bad for business, and that's why major companies, including many of you, many companies that you all work for, those of you at this conference, have implemented LGBT inclusive policies in the workplace. And that's why 6 in 10 small business owners believe that employment discrimination laws, anti-discrimination laws, will help their bottom line by attracting the best and brightest employees. And so since most of you are here, well, some of you are here to party and drink, but most of you are here because you're passionate about your employees. So let me take a moment to share my passion about my employees. I know that we have federal employees who are involved in Out and Equal, and some of whom, I hope, are here at the Workplace Summit. Oh, yeah. So let me do what I always do when I speak with federal employees, and that is to thank you very much for your public service and your work and for putting up with me teasing you. I hope that everyone here recognizes the critical role that our federal employees play in making our nation great. This has been a very difficult time for them. They've had pay freezes, they've had sequestration, they've had furloughs, among other things, and yet they show up to work every day, not always earning as much money as some of the folks in this room, and they work on your behalf. So most people, particularly outside of Washington, D.C., think of federal employees as sort of faceless bureaucrats who are off in Washington. Yet the vast majority of our federal workforce, the truth be told, more than 80%, live in communities outside of the Washington Beltway, in places like Minnesota, Minneapolis, where thousands of federal employees are making a difference every day. Federal civil servants are dedicated, hardworking men and women committed to serving the American public in a meaningful way. I constantly speak with federal civil servants who are very passionate about the people and the country that they serve. They're very inspiring to me, and I would like for them to get a little bit more credit than they do. They're frequently the whipping persons, unfortunately. These are people who provide support to our troops, facilitate loans to small businesses, assist our farmers through droughts and disasters, research new vaccines, and send Americans into space, hopefully voluntarily. They're also people who want to make a difference, and they do make a difference, and I have to thank them for their tireless efforts on behalf of our country. So I ask you, have you hugged a federal employee today? I came here today because, as I said at the outset, OPM is committed to recruiting, retaining, and honoring a world-class workforce for the American people. And that inherently means, as I said, that we're committed to a diverse workforce. As the policy achievements of the last 4 or 5 years I've laid out suggest, we've made a lot of progress, but there is still lots more work to do. Federal protections provide a foundation in creating a strong workforce for America, but they require additional work by our private sector to ensure that all of us are attracting and retaining diverse talent. And that's why you're here, and that's why I'm here. Working together, we're going to get that job done. And so last, let me close out again by thanking Out and Equal for inviting me to speak today. I really wanted that Mary Tyler Moore music. Or was there any Rhoda music? That might have been more appropriate. No matter who I speak to, I always make some reference to being from Brooklyn. I don't know why that is, as though it were some secret. Anyway, thanks again to Out and Equal for inviting me to speak today, for your continued efforts to create an inclusive and diverse workforce. Thank you very much.